Hello.
Morning, Casey. Morning, Lance.
Hello.
Actually, afternoon, Lance.
Yes. And for
Sorry.
you, right?
Likewise, yeah. But it's 1 hour earlier today, so it's nice.
Yep.
Oh yeah, because we changed and
Yeah,
you guys didn't yet.
yeah. Summer is apparently beginning earlier in the US than it is in Europe.
Yep.
And finishes later.
Yeah,
I thought there was talk in the EU of getting rid of daylight savings and just being on summertime all the time.
yeah. There were discussions, but I think they just kept postponing it,
Ah,
and I'm under the impression that they just forgot about it for some reason.
not enough political points.
Yeah, there was a vote. I think people voted for. The question was, do you prefer summer or winter? People say, unsurprisingly, summer. Uh,
There's
but
certainly
yeah.
talk of it here, uh,
Hmm.
It would make things easier.
across the
Yeah.
US, but
Yeah.
specifically in California. A couple of years ago, we had a proposition on one of our ballots about it.
Hmm.
And I think it passed, but it was just a proposition of should we progress this to a vote, and I don't
Yeah.
remember what happened.
Hmm. Yeah. Because if California decides to to leave the daylight saving, yeah, what happens to PST?
Well, yeah, I mean, you still got Washington and Oregon and
Oh.
Canada, but
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, but
um, there's actually there's a few counties, or it might just be all of Arizona that doesn't do savings time.
oh, I know that.
I
Surprising.
remember because a long time ago I did a half marathon in Lake Powell region, which is sort of right down there, Arizona,
Hmm.
near the border, and it was very we had to be careful, like crossing the boundary,
Hmm.
like certain
Yeah.
times of year. If you
Hmm.
crossed the state boundary, the time stayed the same, and
Hmm.
certain times it didn't. And
Yeah.
it was,
Oh,
I remember
it's
the
true.
all of the signage and everything was like, make
Hmm.
sure if you're staying across the state border that your hours are off because we don't
Yeah.
respect daylight savings here.
Hmm. All right.
They wanted everybody to be on
Hmm.
time.
Yeah. All right. And also, it's surprising because it's in Europe we do have this, but you also train languages, road signs, most of everything. In the US, it's the same country, so you just yeah,
Yeah,
it's the
yeah,
only thing
you'd
that
think there'd be a
changes is
little
time.
more standardization.
Yeah.
This is probably all we're getting. So we can do a quick spin through. How's it going, Eric?
Good. You?
Pretty good. Uh, Sleepy. Still haven't acclimated to the hour I lost, but um, yeah. So I'm just coming back and getting up to speed to what's going on here in 328. So I'll be missing a bunch of context on some of these, but I can talk through high level things of what sort of work is in flight. Um, Especially this first one because it's one of the things that I'm working on. Uh, so this is really an operator change, but we're targeting it for 328, and this is to finally get rid of that limitation we've had since we introduced the operator of just a single IP pool per IP family in the operator API. And coming with this is also removing that limitation of once you create an IP pool, you can't change it anymore in the operator. Um, So I'm pretty excited about this. I've wanted this for a long time, but it's been never quite high enough on the list, and it's a somewhat tricky piece of work because if we get it wrong, it can cause problems. But that PR is, I think, mostly done. I'm fixing up a few tests, and then Eric, I'll need your re-review on it. But that's operator pull request number 2658. In case anybody wants to look at it. Sort of along with that, I have picked up some work to fix another longstanding issue, which is that Calico v3 resources don't play nice with the Kubernetes garbage collector. So specifically, if you're trying to use owner references in order to apply a parent to a Calico v3 resource, if you delete that parent, you would expect the v3 resource to be deleted, but it's not always the case. And this comes down to some baggage we carried with us from when we first implemented this using CRDs that results in a non-unique UID being used for the v3 resource. So the garbage collector sees two objects with the same UID and gets very confused by that, rightfully so. So I've got another PR in flight that addresses that. That should be going in hopefully this week as well. And then I'll be looking at cherry picks for that. I'm not entirely sure the full set of releases yet, but I believe it probably should be cherry picked. And that would be Calico PR 8586. Other things that are going on. So there's some other operator work to make the upgrade to eBPF mode a bit less disruptive. I think right now there's a pretty long window where your cluster isn't fully functional while you're doing that switch from IP tables mode to eBPF. But there's some ordering improvements in flight that'll allow us to make that switch much quicker. Switching, basically it should be a change of minutes to seconds, is my understanding. We've also got IPv6 support in eBPF moving to GA. So this has been in tech preview state for some time. And I think with 328, we're aiming to finish off all of the remaining gaps and testing and mark that as GA. So that's exciting for all of those eBPF IPv6 users. This also includes dual stack support, which I think to date has not been functioning.
That was mentioned last time that, yeah, dual stack would be in 328, or was thought to be.
Yes, it's one of the hardest things about testing that is that lots of provisioners that say that they support IPv6 don't actually support IPv6, they support dual stack. So COPS and EKS are the obvious ones.
Interesting. Wasn't aware of that. That's fun.
Yeah. So our existing IPv6 only just didn't work on those platforms because they were kind of dual stack rather than.
Yeah.
Yeah, also you always have all the layers. Are you speaking about uplinks at v6 only, pods v6 only? Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
Lance, do we have a test platform that is IPv6 only?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
I think KubeADM can probably do it. But yeah, I haven't actually done the work
Yeah.
to integrate that into our installer yet.
Yeah.
Kind does that. If you
Yes, but you can't use kind to test eBPF because Docker doesn't
fair
containerize
point. Yeah,
the
yeah, fair point.
eBPF stuff.
Agreed.
So yeah.
Hmm.
Let's see, I think Sean's working on some optimizations within Felix that will affect the IP tables data plane, and I think for most users will be largely irrelevant. This is really targeting the sort of ultra scale users that might be applying hundreds of policies to each pod. And just improving the apply time of those situations. So definitely a good thing to do, but I suspect most users don't have 200, 300 policies applied to every pod in their cluster. And then there's also some work, which I believe has been merged at this point, or most of it has been, to add an opt-in gate for pods as they're starting to make sure that their local policy is programmed before before launching the application code. So in some circumstances, we've seen application pods that start up and attempt to make their first connection prior to the local Felix, learning about their IP address from the API server and programming policy for them. And so most of the time, if this does happen, which is pretty rare, you immediately get a retry and it succeeds on the next attempt. But not all application code is programmed to be resilient to that. Sometimes your app just attempts, it expects network connectivity and it fails. And yeah, you might be able to argue that that's not the best pattern to follow, but this allows you to opt in for your nodes to basically have the CNI plugin delay starting or delay returning a successful result to the runtime until Felix has programmed the policy for that newly allocated IP and interface. So I think in the first implementation, this is just going to be local policy, which means there's no guarantee that the remote policy on the other node is going to be up if your pod is talking to another pod in the cluster. But I think it's a pretty good proxy for that. And the challenge of knowing when every policy in the cluster, every node in the cluster has been updated with policy is a bit more daunting to do in a way that scales. So I think we will be looking at options for that in the future, but certainly for the first phase, we think this will be good enough. And I actually forgot to dig up the pull requests that got merged for this one, but I can throw them in the notes afterwards once I count them down. And I think those are the main buckets that we're working on for 328. Did anybody else have Lance, you're muted?
Any idea approximately when with 328 is coming?
Ooh, I am not up to speed on that, I'm afraid. I've been out for 3 weeks on vacation, basically, until last week. So
I think we're expecting before the next community meeting, right?
that sounds about right to me. Yeah. I think I recall hearing late March. But most likely that means April sometime.
Yeah, because stuff happens.
Yeah. Yeah. That I have a memory of hearing late March, but I didn't want to commit to that necessarily. Yeah, Matt would know best, but he's in a conflicting meeting at the moment. So those were all the sort of points I wanted to call out. Eric, Nathan, anything else you guys wanted to talk about?
Not much on my end. Maybe just a question. So I think we'll be at CalicoCon next Tuesday. I was wondering who on your end would. I think you told last time that.
Sean and Tomas are listed for CalicoCon.
Okay. Cool to know.
Yeah, unfortunately, I am not making this one.
Yeah, it's
a long trip for me, and
yeah, that's quite.
I would have
but
liked to, but then I was out for most of the time that the preparation was happening. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But definitely excited to see the posts and output from that in a few weeks.
Yeah, that's nice. Cool. And yeah, apart from that, maybe I can give a quick update on the Calico VPP integration. We have development as we've been slowing. We have slowed down a bit lately. We've been focusing on a bit of testing, performance testing, and trying to harden the corners there. And as well, we've been keeping an eye out on the multi-net initiative with the CAP. I'm trying to contribute as much as possible on that one. Yeah, cycles are expensive these days. So yeah, that's the main things that we're looking at right now. So
yeah, I'm glad you guys are looking at that. It's one that every time I get the emails coming through, I think, oh, I should take the time to really go catch up on this, but I haven't had a chance yet.
if you're interested, the status on it is there is a discussion scheduled during KubeCon to discuss whether it's a go or no go for community substream. So probably it has reached a state where it's in the negotiation phase, and yeah, it's mostly ready from a spec perspective. It's more of a question of does the community accept it, or does it get rejected, or decide to do it another way? Yeah, at this point.
Yeah, curious to see how that pans out. It's I don't know, probably the 6th or 7th multi-network proposal that has been brought to SIG Network, and none of the others have made it in. So
yeah,
hopefully.
Agreed. So we'll see. And apart from that, that's it on my end.
I was doing a little searching on, see what I could find on the 328, and it looks like the target release is mid-April. So I don't think late March is an expectation there.
Cool. Thanks for correcting me on that. My information is filtered through 3 weeks of vacation, so
yeah. I was just gonna talk about operator stuff. I don't have much. There's just some mostly bugs and a little bit of feature requests. I mean, Casey's got the most interesting new feature with the IP pools controller. But there are a few issues. Yeah, I mean, they're in the operator repo with the operator around Windows. I pinged Pedro to take a look at it. I pinged him yesterday, Casey, when we were going through that list on that one, but I found another one today that that I pinged him on to get him to maybe take a look at it. There's a few other, I think, minor issues with like that. I guess people are doing some migration work because there's been a couple updates related to that. So I'm not sure what's been getting people migrating to the operator, but it's good to see. Good to see getting some updates in. I don't think I have anything else really. Yeah, I don't think I have anything else off the top of my head.
All right.
I mean, actually, well, I guess one thing that's I think a little interesting. You, Casey, I think had a hand in. So, well, and you're adding another one is we now are running multiple, or well, yeah, running multiple controllers for a single resource, I guess I would say. So like the installation resource is now going to have a couple with the IP pools controller. I can't remember. Is there another one on it too, or is this the
I think
second
there's
one?
just the two that are actually
Yeah,
controlling that
yeah,
resource.
yeah. Yeah, I guess, well, I guess most people in this meeting wouldn't be concerned about the enterprise ones because that's really where we had a big split out. But yeah, I think it'll be nice having the two for the installation. But yeah, I'm gonna stop
Cool.
talking.
Thanks, Eric. I think that's everything. Let's think
I've got one.
call. Oh, you got one.
On my
Nice.
side, we've been a bit remiss at getting getting Calico certified with OpenShift. We've finally caught up, and they've now certified 326 and 327. My next task is to automate that so that we don't fall behind again.
Yes, thank you. I know that's a bit of a grueling task.
It's been exciting.
We'll see if it stays that way. But yeah, that is important. Okay, now I think that's everything. And we'll let Nathan enjoy a bit more of that sunlight that he gets from the earlier meeting. Thank you,
Thanks.
everybody. Well, I think the next one is, what is it, second Wednesday? So probably April 10th, just before 328 then.
Cool. Thanks,
Catch
Casey.
y'all later.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.